Hey everybody, this is Lauren Delisa Coleman for the Inside series here at film.io. I am really excited to bring you this next interview. Don't go anywhere because we are about to head over to Paris, France. I am happy to welcome Audrey Jean-Baptiste here to the Inside series. She's joining us from Paris, the Paris region, and we're going to talk about a very cool film that actually she and her brother, Maxime, did, but he is off being fabulous working on their next project, so he couldn't join us today. But Audrey, I'm sure you can hold it down. As we said, this will be a girl power scenario right now. But she's here to talk about their film called Listen to the Beat of Our Images, and this is going to be very, very intriguing because I know it's going to talk about something that you guys probably don't know anything about, or if you do, you know very little about it. So Audrey is about to break it all down for us. Audrey, thank you so much for joining us. It is your evening, so we're not going to keep you for too long. But let's kick it off. Tell us about what the subject matter is for Listen to the Beat of Our Images.
Yes, thank you, Lauren, for this invitation. And this movie is about the French space conquest through a Guyanese point of view. So I don't know if you know, it's not so easy for American audience, but France has still territories abroad. So there is still a piece of France in South America between Brazil and Suriname. And it's like a former colony, which actually called now a department, like as a state for US. And in the 60s, when it was still a bigger colonization and French Empire. In the 60s, Algeria said was independent and France has to go away. And at this time, it was like a big time for the space race. Everyone wanted to launch rockets, etc. And it was a race to go to the moon, to the space, etc. And then the space camp was in Algeria. And when the independence happens, France didn't have any place to launch rockets because you have to be not far from the equator. And then they realized that they have still a territory in South America, very close from the equator line, and they decided very quickly to build the new space camp in French Guiana. So like in 6 or 7, 8 months, they built like a whole space camp and they launched rockets for France and then now for Europe. The problem was that on the place they decided to build this space camp, about 600 people live there. 600 Guyanese people live there like since many generations, probably since the end of slavery. And then in 6 months they had to leave. They had they lost everything. They were a farmer and they had to leave their farms. They had to give up all the animals they had, and they were expropriated and had to try to rebuild a life in very little small house. It was like a big drama for them. People died of it. People were so extremely depressed, and the friends gave them like a very little money to compound into, but it was like crazy. And so my brother and I, sorry it's a bit long, but we made a movie to talk about a story that no one knows in France actually and abroad. And we wanted to talk about this, the space race, the space conquest, because it's always seen through the lens of the science, the progress, etc. And we wanted to tell what are the stories behind this kind of event, and yes, that's it.
Well, all I can say is, first of all, I just feel so honored to be able to talk to you guys as filmmakers, because I learned so much, and I just feel like you guys are so important to be able to tell these stories that you're just like, how can I be alive for this long and not have any knowledge of that whatsoever? It's just really unbelievable. And of course it's always easier, right, to learn about stories through image, because it's more, passive as opposed to reading. So clearly, you could dig around in some book, I'm sure, and find this. But for you guys to bring it to life and in a contemporary way is just like invaluable. So how did you guys kind of come to, this whole kind of passion about being able to do this? I'm sure it has partially to do with your, background, but still.
Yes, it was like actually, in France, we the equivalent of the NASA, it is the CNES. So each year they launch an open call. And they gave, because the movie we made, Listen to the Beat of Our Images, is only made with archives images. That's it. We didn't shoot anything. We only use these images. And then there is like a kind of foundation in the CNES, and they made this open call. And my brother and I decided to work together, and we directly proposed them to see this space race through the Guyanese point of view. And then they gave us all these images, and we built this story. My brother and I, our father is a friend, is Guyanese, and at the beginning we were not sure that we would have enough time, because we made this movie in a very short time, and we were not sure that we could have enough time and enough enough informations to deal with the story in a right way. And then we made like 15 interviews. We met a lot of people. We talked to our father, to our uncles, to friends, and like. And then one day we met Christian Chocho, who lived the expropriation. When he was a child, he was expropriated. And when he talked about the story, it was so strong that we had the feeling that the story happened like yesterday, but it happens like in the 60s. It was so intense. It was so emotional, and so you can feel the suffering and the pain. And he told about the story of his father, and who lost everything. And he was like, okay, we have absolutely no choice. The only things to tell about the story is this and nothing else. So it's true that we are deeply linked to this subject, because we come from here, and each time we go to French Guiana, we saw this rocket. But as French Guyanese people, we still feel very far from this story of the space conquest, because it's a very close area. Everything is close. Mm-hmm. It's mostly French people who come to work there. Mm-hmm. Even if now it starts to change, and Guyanese people work too, but and few at the beginning. But we felt like a big distance, like it was not really the same territory. It's quite
right.
Yeah,
just amazing. So of course my viewers know that like France is my second home. I had the opportunity to live there for several years. And, just when you think, oh, I've heard like so many different stories, from French friends who are, I guess, what would you call it? Originally French? I don't know. But, and Algerian friends, Moroccan friends, etc. Those from former territories in Africa. But just when you think you've heard like everything, then you guys come along with this, and you're like, how can it be? So many different questions. I guess, first of all, has the government responded to this film? Are there any, types of, I don't know, activism, or is there any type of activism going on, any types of protest or whatever that's, being brought to the government there? I can't help but, of course, the first word that comes to mind, reparations, things like that. What is the story like today about, what was this going back now, about 60 years ago?
I would say nothing really happens. The government didn't say anything about this story for now. Because when it happens, like people tried, to resist. They tried, but they were farmers, and it was
right.
And they didn't have the feeling that they could fight the French government to it was. And so there are like few movements, few protests, and the problem is now most of people are disappeared. They died, so
right.
Not so much
the ancestors of them, because I mean, whatever the value of that land was then, multiplied to today, is what is owed back. I mean, that's just only fair. It's just like unbelievable. So talk with me about really, I guess, the challenge on the technical side of this project, being able to decide what footage to use, going back through it all. I mean, that had to be like, almost archaeology, right? in a kind of digital way. And this was obviously not. I mean, I'm saying in a digital way, but I don't think that the footage was digital at that time. So what were you guys going through? Actually, old school reels? What did they give you? Because you said that you were using archival footage from the original time period. So how did that look?
The archives were already digitalized, so
really okay. So that made it a little bit easier then.
Yes, sure, yeah, and they have so much, because they film everything, and they gave us just a part of it, and then us, when we received like I don't know, like 15 files, 15 different movies, we watch obviously everything. And the way we choose the images was driven by the fact that, first, what was really shocking for us is that in these images there were absolutely no Black people. But absolutely, I'm a bit exaggerating, but not so much. Like a few Black people, a few Guyanese people in the images, only French people, and I sent to my brother a text. Where are Black people? what's and it was like I'm laughing, but it was like this is very violent, just to receive these images first, and then we were looking for Guyanese people in the images, like it was the first, and then when we found some images. The first question was, because we felt a bit uncomfortable with the way Black people were shooting, It was, I don't know, there was like a weird energy sometimes. And so we said, why do we feel uncomfortable with these images? And so we guessed that because people didn't really give their consent. We were not sure about that. So we felt sometimes you can see a camera hiding behind a tree and filming some people in the village, and we were like, "Ooh, this is really." So the question of the consent was really essential, and so we had very few images we could use, and without feeling this question of not consenting about being filming, and then that's how we choose the images each time.
Wow.
And then we decided to not use the images. We had the feeling that the relationship between the person who filmed and the character were not fair, not good. So we say, okay, we don't use that. Don't try it. And then we didn't have so much, and so
right.
And we prefer not to represent the old world, the world which were destroyed, and letting the audience imagine it, and so we ask ourselves what's the best way to represent something, a place which doesn't exist anymore, maybe by not showing it. To just make the experience of the loss, maybe just being in front of a black screen, because there is a lot of time where there are no images. Maybe it's kind of experiencing the loss. So yeah.
Wow, just really amazing. So what's the main thing you hope people take away from the film, Audrey?
For the audience, you mean?
Yes.
First, to know about the existence of French Guiana first, because even in France, I often have to explain where is French Guiana, even French people.
It's so true. I didn't meet any in those several years. I don't think I even met anybody from... No.
Yes, no, and when you grew up, because my brother and I, we were born here and we grew up here, and we spent our time to explain, French Guiana, it's a French department, and so it's a bit exhausting at the end, because
right.
So, yeah, just.
I think the islands people are familiar with, the countries in Africa people are familiar with, but that area, not really. Talk about erasure. Man, oh man, it's crazy. So so one would be just the visibility of the fact
yes.
that the people exist, and then two, I guess, what happened with this situation.
Yes, and to give a visibility of what is behind the space conquest, and I know today the space conquest is still a big issue, mostly in US, so we have to wonder. People want absolutely to go to other planets and to dig the space, etc. And what are the stories, the human stories behind this strong desire to go to space? And for us, it's a way to just to talk about the way France consider this territory. They own it. They do what they want with neglecting the local population. So this is what I think we wanted to say. And
what you
in the connection between intimacy and politics, it's like through the emotion. Yeah.
Wow, just amazing. But this is obviously not like your first scenario, at this creative, craft. Tell me a little bit about, just your background with your brother and stuff, because you guys have been in a ton of different film festivals. Like a ton. It's really, really impressive.
Yes, we distributed the movie by ourselves, and we had the chance to go to mostly 60 festivals, and we are really happy about the way the movie travel and a lot in US. So we are so happy that there's such a great reception there. And you mean our background, the movies we made before? Maxime has a background in contemporary art, so he made he made different movies in Belgium because he lives there, and a lot with archives images, movies between contemporary art, documentary, essay, experimental. And me, I come from, I learned anthropology and then documentary, and I was an assistant director on movies and TV show, and in parallel I developed my own project, and now I'm not an assistant director anymore, and I'm doing my own one. And I did a documentary before, which had a good life, a good career too in US, called Fabulous, and a short movie narrative. And then actually we are I'm co-writing my brother's next movie. I have my next movies too, and we are movies together. So,
I love this. It's just like a whole Jean-Baptiste family, just churning out all of this cool stuff. I love that you guys can work, together and separately. And I'm just so glad that you're able to bring this story and others to life. I think this story right now is very appropriate, as many people are looking at, the Musks and Richard Bransons of the world, etc. Going to space, and it's always going to be that similar question about who gets certain resources, how are they decided, where they're used, why are resources in another kind of level more important than those that are here, or taking care of that which is here better first before moving ahead. No one has those answers. Obviously it's different depending on who you ask, but it's just you have perfect timing bringing this to that larger narrative, and I think it's really important. And who knows how many other stories there are like this which are hidden, and it's just important to have all of this come out more and more so that we can not really point fingers, but just to be aware and say, let's just have more mutual respect and more foresight. Just so amazing. I'm so glad that you guys are in Sundance, Audrey, and that we're able to talk with you. Continued success. Just really quickly, because I got to jump to another interview, how can our viewers, follow you and or your brother and all the coolness that you're doing?
We are really bad at social networks. We don't have Instagram. We only have Facebook, and everyone say Facebook is for all people, and we're like, someone says Facebook. I use Facebook to discuss with my grandma. I was like, all right, but we're gonna.
Audrey, you crack me up.
Yeah, someone told me that. I was like, all right. And but I think we're gonna make a website soon because we need like a better place just to communicate about what we do.
Right.
And Facebook or mail.
Oh my gosh, you're too funny. So is it just under Audrey Jean-Baptiste?
Yes, Audrey Jean-Baptiste.
Okay, so Jean, you guys -BAPTISTE.
Yes,
right?
and the website is coming soon.
Yes, so just Google.
Yes, well, we have to.
Too funny. Well, Audrey, it's been great talking to you. I feel like I'm back in Paris for a few moments.
Sure,
and
come
really,
back.
it's just I'm just so proud to see that, you guys stuck with really being able to tell this story and tell it from what you saw as, your own personal truth and the truth of those who went through it, because it's just, it's shocking. And then you're like, okay, now I know this information. What do I do with that? And I think a lot of times we can't go back and undo something, but at least as we even come in contact with others during the day in the elevator, whatever, it's time to think more and more about just how to be just genuinely mutually respectful. Not necessarily like equity and all this other stuff, just genuine, like human to human. What would you want somebody to do to you? Just to say hello or take a moment or hold the door or whatever. Because if you do that, then hopefully you don't get to the point of taking people's farms away. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, crazy. It's crazy. So, Lauren, thanks a lot for
my pleasure.
Great moment
talking to you.
And wish you a good
I hope that
festival.
the film is very well received during Sundance. You guys check this out again. Listen to the beat of our images, and definitely, follow Audrey, because as you can see, she's like also comedy too. We love it. We were talking before a little bit off camera, but she's mad funny. All right, you guys, you don't want to miss the next interview, because this is another French one too. Just so happened back to back. Click on this next one. I am Lauren Delisa Coleman for film.io. This is the Inside series. Thanks for watching.